I am so completely excited to be sitting here with my friend Shakti. This is our take 2 getting started on recording the podcast for Who University.
Yes.
And my podcast is called You WithInSight. And that in can float with either the insight or it can float with within. So we're going to be talking about all the things within, without, and all the ways that we get to create and play with all of that. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about this. It's my
Yeah.
first play session in quite a while. So, Shakti, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you end up on this planet?
Verdicts out on how I ended up on this planet. That is something I am contesting currently with the higher ups on why. So a little bit about me. I have a very interesting and dynamic story in terms of like where I started and came from. Entry to the planet, I was born with this really crazy congenital heart defect. I had open heart surgery when I was 3 days old. I lived when most kids at that time in that age would die from the condition that I had. And so my whole life has been really kind of like an anomaly. Like there's just been a lot of anomaly in my life, outlier kind of situation. And all of that kind of led to building this career around wellness, a huge interest in what it means to be well, a huge interest in what drives people, like the mind behind the machine and all the components of that. So I have had a very long career in wellness. My very first business, I was in my early 20s. I was a professional psychic medium. Following that, I went into bodywork and I did trauma-based bodywork for over a decade. And I learned a lot of somatic systems within there. And then along the way, human design found me about 10 years ago when I was still doing bodywork. And I started kind of incorporating that into my support with clients. And to date, I am now a success coach for high-performing women who find themselves in this interesting dichotomy in the world between the success metrics that they have achieved and the internal dissatisfaction that is really hard to get away from. And I call it living with an emotional junk drawer that you just can't get rid of, no matter how many success metrics you seem to hit. And that is a soft spot for me because I burnt out very early, as a projector does. At 31, I ended up having 10 back-to-back ER visits for a whole bunch of stuff, including like a kidney infection. Just a lot of issues because I was doing too much in a completely misaligned way. Everything I do now when I work with these women is this helping them understand what it means to build something that's not just powerful, sustainable, hit success metrics, but really comes from an internal state and not from an external aspiration, right? So my whole framework, my whole model for how I move in the world and how I teach in the world comes from this like inner to outer. And it's really interesting perspective as a success coach or a business coach because the bulk of my career was in healing.
Yeah.
So I see business and success so differently as a result of all of my experience. And it's the work I do with my clients is so profoundly transformational in the healing sense. And, very little of it is strategic because I've found that once that gets handled, the strategy kind of solves itself in a very interesting way. So, yeah, a bit about me.
Wow. So I'm just having this moment for everybody listening right now. Shakti and I met we have a shared coach. His name is JP Morgan, and we met in his Being Accelerator. And it became evident in the chat that we both had experience with human design and kind of knew what was going on. But what's just kind of blowing my mind right now and the whole energetics of it is that it was 2 calls ago that you and I were on watching JP coach someone else in our group. Mm-hmm. And you and I were carrying on a little bit of a dialogue in the chat. And I had this, I don't even remember specifically what it was, but I had this huge epiphany or huge kind of like, what? And then you were like, channel of initiation. And I was like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. So what just kind of connected in my brain, I make all sorts of interesting connections. And So my mom has the gate 25, which connects to my 51. And you have that channel of initiation, which right now, via the transits, that's active for me. I call that channel the defibrillator channel. I know it's called the channel of initiation. It's all about the shock meets love of the universe kind of thing. But I call it the defibrillator channel. And I'm just noticing the similarities between a lot of our journeys, not only my own journey towards health and well-being, because I was born with lung problems and continued infections, but my mom, so both my mother and my father had severe heart disease issues, kidney issues, like all the energetic systems within the body issues. But my mom specifically was born with a faulty mitral valve and had to have a mechanical heart valve replacement. The surgeon said it just completely crumbled in his hands. And so that just, like, we talked briefly before we got on this, that we were both kind of like, I had a little bit of a plan. You were like, I got no plan. We're just sliding in here for the first time having a conversation. And I was like, wow, everything that I thought I was going to talk about just went right out the window when you said that.
I don't share that often as an intro either. So that's what's really interesting, is like, that's just what wanted to appear. And that makes sense.
Yeah. I was looking at your chart earlier this morning and made myself some notes, noting that you are a right angle cross of Eden, which is what I was like, what incarnation cross are you when we were chatting?
Eden 4, let's be specific.
Yes, the transformation
Eden
one.
4.
I'm a right angle cross of Contagion 4, so I feel you.
Yeah,
because
the 4s represent.
The 4 is like, oh, okay, you've been through all the shit. Now it's time to transform.
It's the final destination one. When you hit 4, you've been in this bitch for a while, and you're trying to make your way through and out.
So I'm curious now that, because we're bringing that, are you Sagittarius?
I am. Yeah.
What degree?
Oh, I don't remember, to be honest. Degrees are not something that I retain. I know I'm a Sagittarius stellium, so I have my Sagittarius, my Mercury, my Uranus, and my Saturn are all conjunct on Sagittarius in the 11th house, no less.
Bringing some fire?
Yeah, just a little. Just a little bit of that energy into. So yeah, I do have a stellium, which is it's a very unique thing to sit in, because it's a lot of Sagittarian energy, which is, you'll feel dominating a lot of my content, a lot of my work in general. But I'm also a rising Aquarian, so you can also feel a lot of that in my content, and hence my interest in the esoteric and things like design and things like astrology and things like that. Like, that's very much my shirt.
Yes.
It's my rising Aquarian marker here. So
I love that so much. So my mom was an Aquarius, my husband's an Aquarius, my daughter's an Aquarius, and I natally have an Aquarius rising, but as soon as I moved to Maui, I became a Capricorn rising.
Interesting.
I know. Interesting, right? I am a triple Scorpio. I have...
Oh, boy. Girl.
I don't know, like 28. I'm a third decan Scorpio, so it's in that like 28th degree. And then the fun thing is my Saturn, God bless my Saturn,
God
is
bless
my
everyone's
50.
Saturn.
Right? My Saturn is in the gate 51 and 42, I believe. So I've got initiate it and then shut that shit down. Like, finish it
wild.
off.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? My pearl is in the 51. It's even more interesting. Yeah. My pearl is in the 51, awakening. That's my pearl, which is wild, because what's crazy about that is like I always have shit go down like in a major way, but it always leads to like this insanely beautiful thing. It's like, that is the story of my life. It's like, get ready, girl. And then at the end of it, you're like, wow, that was like wildly powerful. Like, that was insane.
Like the
to me, that's
fireworks.
the channel. That's the whole channel, the 2551. Like I live that like every day. It's
Yeah. That's so cool. I love
uh,
that. I love that a
um,
lot because so my quantum pearl is 46.
oh, embodiment. I love that. Such a good
Exactly. And
one.
my culture that leads into that is 64, which is
Mhm.
also my SQ. So for me, everything's about the allowing myself to sit in whatever confusion there is
Yeah.
and then moving into imagination. Like, what do I want to create? What do I want to envision? I'm hugely visionary, but led into by my vocation, which is 33,
Mm-mm.
which is also my attraction. So everything's always about remember who the fuck you are,
Mm-hmm.
remember why you're here,
Mm-hmm.
remember what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now go create something new and then
Mm-hmm.
embody it.
And there will always be, though, what's interesting about the 33 that I find to be so challenging for my clients with it is that there's this withholding that lives in that particular gate, this silence, right? Because of the privacy
Yeah.
component of it. So there's this silence that will take over their space sometimes, and everything that they really love feels very personal. It feels very private. It feels very sacred, right? So they have a really difficult time sharing it because they're like, oh, let go of it.
Yep.
Like,
For
yeah,
real.
yeah.
Yeah. That retreat
Mhm.
is for real. In fact, that's pretty much what I've been doing I'm just now coming out of my chrysalis. I have I took a deep dive in right around my Chiron. So as a 4-6, that 6-line profile, I used to say that. So I found human design right about the time that I was having my Chiron, just after it actually. So I was 50. I was coming up on 50.
Are you a
Had my
4-6 natally?
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah.
Okay.
So I went onto the roof and then I used to joke that I came down off the ladder, off the roof, off a rickety ass ladder. I slid down it. I got splinters. I landed flat on my ass on the bottom because I was missing a few rungs. But I have since revised that story.
Mastery. High five. Ta-da.
Son of a bitch. I have spent the last
Wait.
7 years
That's funny.
basically. I may have fallen down the ladder, but then I crawled back up that ladder, spun myself a silk pad underneath the gutter, and I've been in the chrysalis for about the last 7 years. And I feel like
Mhm.
I'm just now breaking out of that.
Mm.
I've been in not entirely in hiding the whole time, but pretty fucking close. As I have
Mm.
been like deep on the deconditioning path and
Yeah.
rewriting those stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been, how many years have you been in design? Like almost 7 or close to that?
Yeah, I've been in design about 7 years.
That's the
So,
cycle.
yeah,
Welcome. Now you are
thank you.
ready.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so it was 49 where I just declared, I was like, from here on out, I'm going to listen to my intuition because it has never steered
Yes,
me wrong.
girl.
It's scared the shit out of me,
Yeah.
absolutely, but it's never taken me down the wrong path. And so I was
Right.
just going to trust that. And it was the beginning of 2019 that I went into end of 2018, beginning of 2019, when I started going to life coach school. I had gone back to school a couple years prior. I had a severe brain injury when I was 18 in a car
Mm.
accident. And so for 30 years, I told this story about how I lost all my math. I lost
Mm.
the ability to do anything other than simple basic math. And so I was like, I can't go be a doctor because I wanted to either go where the money was so that I could just have enough money that nobody could tell me what to do, where to go, how to do it. Fuck y'all. Or I wanted to go into like healthcare, into being a doctor. But again, I didn't want anybody telling me what I could do, how I could do it. So
Right.
I dove deep into learning about trauma transformation. I dove deep into trauma recovery, past lives, ancestors. I would time travel back to different lifetimes and was doing the healing at a cosmic level and didn't want to follow anybody else's rules. So I that started in like late 2018, early 2019. And it was during that time that I found Gene Keys first, actually. And then I found human design right afterwards, because I was talking to my girlfriend, my bestie, who is also a projector. She's a 3/5
Mm.
splenic
She came in
projector.
hardcore. She wanted to rumble with that 3/5. She wanted
Yes.
and a
Yes.
projector. It's like, yeah, let's just make it really hard. Let's just play this on hard mode and see how life goes. That was her choice.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Ah.
And so she was like, one day I was talking about Gene Keys, and she was like, this sounds so much like human design. And I'm like, what's
Mm-hmm.
human design? And then, of course, she introduced me to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, I just took a really, really deep dive when my
Mm-hmm.
whole life base was like,
Mm.
yeah. So, and that my 51 sits in Aries.
Mm. I'm looking at your chart right now. I just pulled up the combination chart that you created for us. I'm
Yes,
looking at it.
yes. So I'm glad you segued us there, because one of the things that I was looking at, so I have different names for things. I call the compromise channels the training wheels channels. And the reason I do that is because, like, I have the hanging 6
Mm-hmm.
and my husband is a 59/6.
Oh boy.
And so he has taught me, I got an education. My dad, who was also a projector, a 3/5 projector,
Oh.
um,
Hmm.
he had the 59. And so the electromagnetic for us was that, attraction repulsion kind of thing in that channel.
Yes. Yeah.
But I've learned a lot. My ex-business partner that was doing Who University with me, she also had that 59/6 channel. Man, oh man, that tribal channel, right?
I have a
So
hanging 6. I'm not involved with this 659 situation. Help me out, is how I feel about it. I do not include me in this. We are a different person. Hanging 6s. We're not the same. Don't
oh my
include me.
gosh. Oh my gosh. That channel has taught me so much. That's why I call it training wheels.
Yeah.
Um, so you and I have the compromise channel, or my training wheels,
Mm-hmm.
with initiation 2551, which,
Mm-hmm.
thank you, by the way, because that was also my mom's channel. And even though her heart as a physical being was what most people would consider defective, it was probably one of the most special things about her. So thank you for having that as well, and being here with me right now. I feel like I'm with my mama.
It's a special thing to be born with. I feel like with the heart like this too, like it's really being born this way. And I'm sure it was true for your mom also. It sets you up to have this really acute awareness of what heart is about, because you come into the world and it's like immediately messed with, right? Immediately, like in my case, cracked open and plugged out, and literally like crazy stuff's going on in your heart chakra. Like that chakra is just immediately blown wide open. And it's so profound to me to be in a position now where the majority of work I do with my clients is around emotions and the power of emotion. And
Yeah.
it's not lost on me that I don't think I would have the same capacity to do that work if I didn't carry with me this marker, not just the channel itself, but this thing that I came into the world with. That's a
Yeah.
very, yeah, it's a very profound reminder. And I imagine that for your mom, it was like, this is where she lived a lot, because it was just like where she was anchored in, based on her story and based on her energetically, right?
Yeah.
Um,
My mom's sun sign as an Aquarius, she had the 49th gate as her sun. And that death and
Principles.
rebirth, like, she'd been there so many times. And yeah, there's like, my first awakening actually happened when I found out that my father was dying. And I had been doing, since about 2014, I'd been doing a lot of inner child work. And I had multiple versions of my inner child, no surprise, especially as a triple split. I had my teenage version, and then I had an 8-year-old version of me that I worked with the most. Those two were the most challenged time for me. And I'd found out that my father was dying, and I hadn't really had any kind of relationship with him. I hadn't seen him since I was 15 years old, but I found out he was dying, and I came home that day and told my husband about it. And he said, well, is there anything you need before he passes? And I'm like, I don't think so. And he goes, maybe you want to sit with that? And I was like, yeah. So I did go and sit with it. I was meditating on it. And while that was happening, my little 8-year-old self, and she's just the version of me, I call her Lumen. She is the version of me that is just like sunshine and rainbows and daisies and everything is amazing, unicorn glitter and all the things. She showed up in front of me with her hands on her hips at first. And she's like, it's not about what you need from him. It's about what he needs from you. And the wild thing I want to put a pin in and remind me to come back to this is what that actually meant and how it took me almost 7 years to realize what she was actually saying in that moment. But right after she said, this isn't about what you need from him, it's what he needs from you. She had my mom's heart in her left hand and my dad's heart in her right hand. And she said, the reason we have so much heart disease in our family is we are not being the love that we were designed to be. And that was it. And she was like the nap girl. She was just like, boom. And to come full circle, it was just recently. So this was August of 2019 that this happened. It was my first like, holy shit moment with doing my inner child work. And so just maybe within the last month, I had this realization. So I work on everything inside to change it on the outside, right? So I have the relationship with my mother and my father within me and my inner child in that kind of like triangle configuration. And I'm always working on this relationship, like how can it be even more loving and more powerful between my mother and my father within me? And when I was doing some work with my father, elevating him in my internal story about who he was and how he was, I had this moment. I was doing some NLP reprogramming on being unwanted. And in that moment, I realized I was standing as witness to the moment that right after I was born, my father came to drop off my mother's stuff. Basically, the marriage had ended, and she asked if he wanted to see me, and he said no. And so I'm replaying this image in my mind as I'm doing the belief rewrite, and I'm standing as a witness just behind my father's right shoulder, almost like I'm him, but I recognize that I'm separate from him, and I can see myself as a baby laying on the floor on a blanket within his eye view. And it was like the recognition that he needed to know that I saw him see me. And it was just this game of, I once had a breath work that basically revealed to me a few months back that my mother was a goddess from one realm. My father was a goddess a god from another realm. They were asked to come together to create me, to make it possible for me to enter into Earth. But that I wasn't supposed to know where I came from, who I really was until a certain point in my life. And it was in that moment, it was this recognition of he saw me seeing him as an infant. It was wild. Psychedelic shit happens to me like this all the time, and I don't even have to do any drugs.
Timeline jumping is a real thing.
Yeah.
If you've worked in timelines, you know that's a real thing, because a lot of my work is matrix re-imprinting work, and it's really wild.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What is, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Just something wild and different. What is the craziest experience that you've had, maybe, or surprising experience that you've had either in a session or on your own?
Girl, how much time you got?
Well, let's
I'm at
see.
25:51. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't like one incident of like stuff like this happening. So I think for me, one of the experiences that really has stuck with me, God and I have this real tight relationship. I have been an ordained minister since I was 21. So I have a very strong faith. I uh walk a very, very intimate relationship with God. There's just so much intimacy in that relationship that doesn't need to be spelled out or delineated in any way. But there was one moment in my life that showed me the like power and protection of God and also the presence of God in terms of like the things that I was living through in my life. And I was in my early 20s. I was living in this really beautiful apartment complex with my partner at the time that I could not afford. And I was living through one of the hardest financial moments of my life ever, ever, ever. I mean, about to get evicted from this apartment. My relationship to my partner was falling apart rapidly. She was diagnosed with something crazy that she was really having a hard time with. And we lived on this property that had a huge lake in the middle of it. And it was not uncommon to see all kind of creatures coming in and out of this lake just because that's what happened.
Yep.
This is in Central Florida-ish. So one night, there was a gym in the neighborhood and I was like, you know what? We should just walk over there and work out just to like clear our energy type of situation. I had just been to church earlier that day and Psalm 27 was stuck in my head. Even though I walk through the valley, shadow of death,
Mm-hmm.
I shall fear no evil. And I was just repeating that portion of the psalm over and over again in my head as I was walking down the stairs, as I was getting to walk. And I'm walking and I step on something and I feel something on my ankle and I back up. Now, freeze frame here. I'm a city kid. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. I don't know about bugs, snakes, animals. I'm not that human. Okay. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
go out there and categorize nothing for you. I'm very interested, but that is not my background.
Yeah.
My partner at the time, though, grew up in the country. So she could identify a fucking mosquito if you gave her like 10 minutes of time. Right. So
Yep.
I do this thing where I back up after I feel that thing. There's a lamp light literally right across from us. So I want you to think Narnia. You know what I mean? That very
Yeah.
iconic moment where, like Edmund steps in or Lucy steps in and there's this huge lamppost and it's casting this light over this whole area. Like that's what it looked like in that moment. And as I back up, this snake slithers out right under the ring of light where that lamppost is, right? So it's in
Mm-hmm.
front of me. It's in front of me. It's maybe a couple feet in front of me. And it turns around and stands up like this and looks at me. Okay, so now we have a snake 2 feet away from me, standing up looking at me. I'm looking at it. My partner is screaming, and I can't really hear what she's saying. It's a very Charlie Brown moment for me of
Uh-huh.
want happening. But I hear the word moccasin coming out of her mouth because she can identify those things again. Easy peasy. It's looking at me. I'm looking at it. The time stops. It's a very surreal moment of time stopping.
Yeah.
And there's silence. There was no sound between me and the snake and my partner on the outside screaming, trying to come in through this bubble that has now been formed from nowhere. And I look at the snake and the snake looks at me. I have no fear. There's no fear, even though I know moccasins are aggressive. I know that logically in my brain. Like they come for you. There's no way I
Mm-hmm.
stepped on that and it was not going to come for me from a logical standpoint, but it
Right.
wasn't. It was just looking at me and I was looking at it and we were just looking at each other. And out of nowhere, I hear the word initiation in my head. And then it just takes one final look at me and it got back down and it slithered away and
Yeah.
it disappeared. My partner is checking my feet. She's like, you definitely got bit. You got to go to the emergency room right now. Like, this is the end. Like, you're going to maybe die. There's all this stuff is coming. I'm
Yeah.
like, nothing happened. I look at her. I'm like, nothing happened. I'm fine. She's like, no, you were not. She's insistent. No, you were not. Like something. I'm like, no, I am fine. Look at my feet. Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
I stepped on a water moccasin. I really don't know how many people can say that. And it talked to me instead of attacking me is what
Yeah.
I got out of it, which is bananas. That's just one example of some things that have happened in my life. And after that, my whole life fell apart. Like that relationship ended, I ended up leaving, like massive transformation. Like my whole timeline jumped 10 times over in a really challenging way. But that's just one example of things that have appeared in my path that have just been like crazy, like unbelievable by normal standards.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that story. It makes me think about have you heard of Dr. David Hawkins?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I read his book. I think it was either Healing and Recovery or Letting Go the Pathway to Surrender. One of those two books, he talked about a story where he basically was face to face with a snake and he just had to,
That's wild.
like communicate with the snake
Yeah.
and allow, by not feeling the fear, you could allow a different outcome than what would be normally considered.
I had no conscious awareness of that. It just literally happened. And I remember asking the snake, what do you have for me? Like I knew it was a message. There's no way you have a snake that size stand up like that and look at you and not move. It was just the weirdest, like Harry Potter shit I've ever seen in my life. Like honestly, like it was really bizarre. And what's even weirder now is when I go into enclosures where there are snakes, if I make the intention of speaking to them, they will always come to me. They will always go up to the glass. They will always make the point of like, and my husband is like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen. You really are Harry Potter. Like, this is weird. Like, you can talk to snakes. It's a
That is
really
so cool.
interesting thing. Yeah, side effect of that.
Yeah. That is very cool.
Weird.
And I love this idea about the initiation.
Okay.
I'm currently reading a book called Kings, Warriors, Lovers, and Magician. King, Warrior, Lover, and Magician. And it's a book for men, about men, because I'm like, given this physical existence, this version of Tanya grew up without specifically a father, because after my mom and dad broke up, she chose women pretty much from there on out.
That probably would have also just
Yeah.
would. I mean, if you have the option and the flexibility, it just makes sense.
Well, she chose to go a different route. And so I have, doing that inner feminine, masculine work, working on my own little boy as well as my own father man inside me. I have been looking for, in fact, that's how I found JP actually, because I got to a point where I was like, okay, not only had I done the forgiveness work or the making of amends, let's call it that, making of amends with the father that I had in the physical form, the 3D realm, to then him dying and me understanding, like the conversation I ended up having with him right before he passed wasn't really a conversation. He said, I love you. I miss you. I'm sorry. I love you. Those were his last words.
He did a Ho'oponopono with you.
He totally did. He totally did.
That's wild.
And then it was repairing the relationship with my husband because so we're going to have our 31st wedding anniversary on the 24th of this month.
Congrats.
And we've been through the whole thing, we've been through this whole cycle. Anyway, so I've been looking for a model of show me a man in his creativity, in his divinity, in his an initiated man.
I love that.
And I had Joe Hudson, the coach Joe Hudson, show up in my field. Then I had JP show up here in Maui. And I was like, what? There's a coach on Maui doing the thing that I want to do? What? And so that's kind of what pulled me into JP's sphere. But I've been doing this research. Also reading, there was a book, Emotions, and it's not the Emotion Code, it's another one. But both of them talked about initiation, like a rite of passage, something that we as society currently have done away with. This idea of when you go from being a boy
Mhm.
to a man, when
Mhm.
you go from being a girl to
To
a
a woman.
woman, right? It's those initiations of taking the divine child and moving them into an adulthood with
A
some
new
sort of
role.
initiation.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. So that's really, really cool that you had that
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm. And that it was a snake, right? Because, I had to shed a lot after that. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Snake
Yeah.
medicine has always been with me since then. And snake medicine is kind of like snake and phoenix medicine have been really, just always around my work and around my entire life. But I think this conversation about initiation is so powerful because I think as a society, I think we've gotten real soft in our
Mm-hmm.
whole way of living in the world. Like we don't have gusto, we don't have bravado, we don't have the things that we need to have to survive really difficult things like
Yeah.
what we're living in right now. And part of that is because we don't have initiation, because there was no growing up. There was no welcoming you into a new role with meaning and explanation and ritual and protection and guidance, right? Like
Yeah.
all of those things have been taken out of the human development. And so then it's no surprise that a boy doesn't know how to be a man and is being a
Mm-hmm.
really terrible man to his woman. And a woman doesn't really know how to be a mother or a lover or anything because, now we're seeing women, and then me being one of them, I'm an ex version of this, like so hyper independent that we don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to be feminine. And so now
Mm-hmm.
we've completely lost the plot in terms of how to relate to each other because of this lack of ritual and lack of initiation. Like, had
Yep.
that remained, women would be women and men would be men. And we would have, an evolution in roles, of course, because we progress as a society, but we wouldn't be confused about how to be relating to each other. You know what I mean? Like there wouldn't be so
Yeah.
much damage in the world of like intimacy and connection like there is now. It's really been hyper detrimental
Yeah.
to that.
That is a big part of kind of what my mission is to help people bring back
Mm.
together within themselves the harmony of the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and the divine child. Like that whole system, like
The
recognizing,
Trinity.
yes, recognizing how important it is. Like I see children come in this world now when I look at whether they're babies or younger children or young adults, I'm like, these are the wisdom keepers. These are the shamans that are entering our world now. And I'm sort of like on a mission. My line 6 mission is to be the role model that, like, my daughter is 29 years old. Recognizing her creativity, recognizing her wisdom before we completely strip, especially the children that are coming in now, really have that, in that 55th key, this act of no longer coming in as a victim or as not being recognized for they are about as close to God source, whatever your belief is around something greater than all of us just here. And so to recognize the creativity of the child, the wildness, and to remove all of these confining rules and expectations that actually don't follow the laws of nature. Like I love to say that nature is my guru.
It's a great
All
one.
of nature is my
Yeah.
guru. And yeah, so I love that I have now a fellow person who's kind of on that same path.
I mean, I'm raising two of them right now and they're still small. So I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, that these kids are built different and they are so good at catching me in my shit and holding me accountable. I mean, it is wildly impressive. My 4-year-old
Yeah.
yesterday had to sit down with her father. I don't think that was very nice the way you spoke to me. And I
I
was
love it.
like, you might want to pay attention to her because she looks serious. Like, she's really and just so articulate like that. Like, when you said that, that hurt my feelings, and I don't think it's very kind, right? Or my son will say, "I don't think that was a fair consequence. Like, I think you overextended it. Like, it just did not match the crime," you know? And I'm like, "Fair." You know, like, it's just this is the level at which I'm relating to these children, you know? There's no
Yeah.
I am parenting them, but there's also so much learning happening in real time and so much, like, there's so much, space, and of course, I have 2 projector children, right? So they are insanely wise, and they can see so much, right? And so,
Yeah.
I homeschool them on purpose because I was seeing the school system really stripping my son, my older one, of his gifts, of his sensitivity, of his attunement, and I was
Yeah.
furious about it. So I had to rearrange my whole life to be able to do that. And I have. It's been really difficult. But I personally cannot imagine a more sacred charge than ensuring that those 2 kids maintain their attunement in a
Yeah.
world that is adamant about stripping them of it. That's like a huge thing for me in my life.
Yeah. So that makes me want to ask, if you were to characterize your own attunement, what is that?
If I were to characterize my own attunement,
I wonder how
yeah.
you would write yourself as the legend that you are.
You know, immediately when you said that, I've been working on my declarations again. And one of the things I wrote about me, and it was the first thing I thought of when you said that, was I am the silence that follows a really tender share.
Mm,
Like, right when you share something that is really vulnerable and really true, like that pause that follows that space, that is
yeah,
how I feel I would characterize my impact, I guess, or my essence, that moment.
that's beautiful. I am aware. I'm actually usually horrible with time. Time doesn't exist in my world. I usually do not pay attention to it. Um, and I'm aware of time. So
Yeah,
I want
we're
to
good.
honor the fact that you have littles that have places to go and things to do.
Yes,
And I would love to have more conversations in the future if you are open for it,
I
because this was so much
am.
fun.
I am. I would love that.
Yeah.
This was great. There's so much that we can really dive into. I feel like so
Yes.
much of our work, it's funny like how parallel, how adjacent it is, you know, and it also comes from our own suffering, which makes a lot of sense. And to be fair, I think that's actually the point of experiencing suffering. Like I think that's an
Mm-hmm.
important point I want to share on your podcast is that the things that we live through, they can mean nothing or they can mean everything. And that is
Mm-hmm.
entirely up to us. And you and I are living examples of people that have lived through really difficult experiences. And it has shaped the way that we move in the world and the way that we exist. But we've created so much medicine from those experiences to help other people avoid having the similar, you know, struggles and the extended suffering that we have experienced. And I actually think that's the point of coming onto the planet with a curriculum that is less than desirable. Is that
Yes.
you get to create medicine from that, you know, like the blue lotus, which is one of my favorite flowers, it only grows in Egypt and it only grows in like shit conditions. And it is one of the most gorgeous flowers that exist in the world. And so I just want to have your listeners understand, if you came onto the planet with a curriculum that was less than desirable and you question every day why you signed the paperwork to be incarnated under those circumstances, I promise you that it is because your medicine is as potent as the circumstances under which you came onto the planet. And it's your duty to discover that medicine and to serve that medicine to as many people as possible, because that's actually was the whole point of everything that you survived and lived through.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for saying that because I 100% absolutely align with that and believe that to be true. I have had so many experiences that I thought, why? But really, I mean, if we go back to a snake bite, how do you make antivenom? You need
From a
venom.
snake bite. Yeah.
You need the venom of
Mm-hmm.
that snake bite to make the antivenom. And
100%.
there came a point in time in my life, and it wasn't that long ago actually. It was probably about 2018, about the 2017, about the time that I was going through my Chiron return, that I just got to this point that I was like, okay, I need to make a decision and operate from there. And the decision for me was I am either the creator of my reality, I am a co creator with source, God, divine,
Mm-hmm.
however you see it. I am the creator of this experience, and I take full 100% ownership for everything I'm creating, including the shit, including the things that most people are like, I would never wish for that to have happened to me. Well, maybe you did, and you just don't see the reason for it yet. But the other choice was, I am just like it's fate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here. I didn't get to pick my skin color. I didn't get to pick my gender. I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
to have any hand in that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just here and I am a pawn of the universe
Mm-hmm.
or of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the decision that I am going to take ownership of my life. I'm going to be the creator, the story writer. And I'm like, I got some stories to rewrite. I got some, I got some things to like take and make them better, and then continually just make it better, and extracting the medicine, like going through that process. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Pleasure. It is a very 2551 closing message.
And a little 42 thrown in there, like in
Wrap it up.
conclusion.
Wrap
Yes.
that up. Yep.
So where
Yeah.
can people find you?
So you can find me all over the place. If you're on the Instagrams, my handle is Shakti, like my name, .Rios. My website is phoenixlegacy.com. Phoenix spelled PHNX, all of the consonants. phoenixlegacy.com. And I am a success coach, like I said, for high performing women. And if you're someone that really wants to work with you on not just the strategic stuff, but also the internal stuff, that is my specialty. I love business. I've been an entrepreneur forever. So that's like one of my favorite things to coach on and support women on. And yeah, on Facebook, it's just Shakti Rios as well. So pretty much either Phoenix or Shakti, one of those places is where I
That's
hang.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being
Thank
here with
you.
me today and
Thank you.
getting
Thank
to
you.
dive in deep.
Mm,
And
Thank
until
you.
next time.
Until
Okay.
next time.
Mwah.